welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain, so.
Good morning, I'm Maokwe Ogun.
Well, good morning, I'm Sulaiman Alede.
Well, again, we revisit this matter where groundwater contamination or pollution in some parts of Lagos causing a lot of headache. Well, you do remember that the NSCDC not long ago did move in, making those arrests, which caused a lot of controversy and uproar concerning the intention of all of those, because I mean at the time when they had said, look, the NNPC officials had been here, they are working on getting a solution to all of this, but you know, beyond making those arrests, because it goes beyond it. Now if areas as huge as Alimosho, groundwater there is polluted, and so many other areas in Lagos, I mean lots of hydrogeologists have written in on the program and raised major concerns concerning how they are treating all of these matters, because in the first place they identify the fact that, look, water contamination, once water is contaminated, groundwater, it takes a lot to sort that problem out. And they suggested that, look, why doesn't NNPC in the first instance, or if they haven't, identify the source of that leakage first and foremost before you begin to see how you can sort them out? Because they say, look, what they saw on TV with respect to those NSCDC officials evacuating the product from the well, they say, look, with due respect to them, that action up by itself comes across to them as an ignorant one. I read what Dr. Matthew Ofodile said. He says, look, the more, trying to see where exactly, he says, evacuation of the product from the aquifer at any point, well or borehole, cannot solve the problem. Instead, it will worsen the situation by inducing increased flow of contaminants into the general area. The more you pump the well, the more you increase the velocity of the flow to the contaminant into the well. And he goes on and lists a lot of recommendations concerning what should be done. But this is huge now. Where do these communities turn? I mean, NSCDC can't go and arrest every community where perhaps this water strays, even going beyond 200 meters into their well. How do they begin to sort all this out?
Well, I'm happy. Dr. Fodile wrote but in any case, possibly next month he should be able to make it down to Lagos to join us on the program. Yeah. Because he's not based anywhere near our studios in Lagos, but he'll be there to share his insight into all of this, being a renowned hydrogeologist. But talking about NSCDC and talking about what we've just seen, and from the experts' opinion, we just realized that, well, they goofed big time. And I'm looking at it two ways now. We're talking about the spill and the leak in those communities around Alimosho here in Lagos. And now we just realized from this particular report, because we had to go back and see what exactly it was, since some were thinking that, people were not bound to ask them some questions, or people have erred or gone out of their ways to actually ask some certain questions for clarification's sake. But for NSCDC, I'm hoping that the echelon of that particular organization or body should be able to give orientation to its men, so that they know how to move in and what to do, and when you finally make arrest, what to do. And do you go with a soldier when you want to make such arrest? And now that you just realize finally you have goofed, what do you do? Do you apologize to those individuals? Do you apologize to the community? Since NNPC, it's in the know, and as well as the police and even the police station in that particular locality, they also have it in their file that this particular problem does exist, and the NNPC has been there to see what they can do to salvage the situation. And if the NNPC has actually done all of that, and we're going with what the hydrogeologist has said, it means perhaps that was why NNPC had to stay off that pumping the stain, which they had done almost for 1 year, didn't actually solve the situation. He did say, Dr. Fodile did say, well, the more you pump it, the more you aggravate the problem. Perhaps they should look. And Chamberlain, you also missed out something there. He also said that for some cases, you can't actually solve them. You will live with it forever. I was so scared when I saw that part of it, but that it is not in every situation you can actually remediate.
He says well or borehole water is not like surface water or rivers and stream. Once underground water is damaged, it takes a long time to solve, and sometimes the damage can be permanent. That's if they don't handle the problem.
That's it. So I'm hoping NNPC should be able to, well, come in and do the little they can and let us in on whether it's going to be some kind of permanent, whether it is a permanent damage to the underground water.
Yeah, but let's take it that that's what's going to be permanent.
Because for Salau, who was here, another environmentalist, hydrogeologist, he told us, he made us understand that well, they've been pumping that for almost 1 year. It means, well, it never baited. So well, let's hope that something will be done concerning this. But you know what? We wouldn't even be too worried if we have potable water in communities, because everyone is almost his own government. You have to go down and get your drinking water, go down and see what you can do with your water. But I'm sure if the government will move in and to give them potable drinking water, all of this will be what we should worry less about for now.
Okay, so we've raised a host of issues, and what I was trying to do in my head was compartmentalize, the issues that have been raised. One set is environmental challenge, which is what we've seen in terms of pipelines passing through an area, and for some reason it's seeping into the groundwater, polluting wells and even the entire groundwater around that particular area. That is a major environmental challenge. How they're going to sort that, leaves a lot. We're waiting to see how that is going to be sorted out. But we need to ask, the Commissioner for Environment in Lagos State, if he's aware that that kind of problem exists in Alimosho local government area. We've been told that Alimosho local government area is the biggest, possibly the most populated local government area in Lagos State. And for that area to be able to suffer that, I mean, there are health implications as well. One of the environmentalists who was speaking in that report was talking about how the children there will most likely have skin rash. Most of them around there will most likely suffer from one skin problem or the other, which is, a very big likelihood. And said if by some chance they're consuming the water, they're definitely going to be in trouble in terms of, inviting cancer into their bodies. So it's a major environmental challenge, and we're asking what is being done in that particular regard. It might be beyond the Lagos State government, but what are they doing to make sure that attention is drawn to that particular area? So for some reason, perhaps we should thank NSCDC for bringing this to light. That is on one area. Now, talking about security, I mean, the NSCDC has taken upon itself to guard the country's pipelines, be they carrying petroleum products, that's already refined petroleum products, or carrying raw crude. In this case, they're carrying refined petroleum products, and they're really worried about the spate, at which people come to vandalize pipelines. We've seen, that happening a lot. And then when they hear, information that some people could have been selling, let's not rule that out. I mean, I'm a little curious as to how the entire area can be polluted, but only 2 houses were, shut down. Is it that, we don't know what tip-off they got to that particular, to carry out their own action? So, but I think NSCDC too should learn to work with other security agencies. The question that our reporter asked as to how, did you contact your fellow security agents to whom these people have reported? I mean, to that particular question, he accused the reporter of bias, and said, answered it anyway, and said, well, they have not been informed, that the police informed them as well. After all, it's their own jurisdiction to, to guard the pipeline. So I'm wondering, there is still interagency rivalry, as it were, and that shouldn't be the case. And for me, that is even more worrisome, because as you've said, the security agents were not supposed to move them just by themselves. They're supposed to have taken the NNPC along, so that you don't even cause more problems for, the environment, as it were. What should have been done even more professionally. And that was not the business of the NSCDC to putting buckets in there and trying to prove to the entire world that we had. So I'm a little worried. I'm even more worried about, interagency or intersecurity agency rivalry. We've talked about it on several fronts, and apparently it's still very much present. The police says we cannot report to them. We do not report. We're not underneath them. We don't report to them. But for the sake, I totally understand that, but for the sake of this particular people, because can you imagine if they have suffered injustice, who pays for that? The pregnant woman who was taken, you know, behind bars or put in custody and now has to go to hospital, who pays for that? Who bears the brunt of that?
I really want another thing that Mark, I really want clarification on this. Do they have the right to detain anyone? Because the pregnant lady was in detention, the NSCDC detention. So, do you have right whatsoever to keep someone or to hand them over to the police? These are some of the things. And why go there with an army or soldier? So this is what we should be asking ourselves.
Army retinue, because we know that we saw a brigadier general there. I mean, at least a vehicle of a brigadier general was present there. So it wasn't just one soldier. We know that they went there with a retinue of soldiers.
And it was only how many days ago at that MBA conference where, while they talk about military rights, you know, human rights, what about the rate at which they deploy the military to attend to civil matters? Could this be a case in point? Well, these are some of the issues and others examined in this report.
Estate, living in their home and being afraid of what's going to happen the next second.
My husband go dig that small one. If you come and if you take off for water leaf, and see you go see the fuel.
These complaints were made way back in 2010 by residents of Isheri in Igodo area of Alimosho local government in Lagos. Refined fuel has seeped into their water wells, contaminating it.
From the well. As long as you draw from here, this is what you get.
For this woman, her little farmland has also been taken over by petroleum product. Every dig on the ground produced fuel. She and her cohabitants were arrested by the NSCDC of tampering with the NNPC fuel pipeline, scooping and trading on the product. A development the NNPC claimed was caused by ruptured pipes, which were subsequently fixed. 3 years after, and just last week Saturday, another discovery of oil in some water wells in residential homes on Aminotu Ilo Street in Ejigbo, a community still within the same local government area. 8 persons, including a pregnant woman, were arrested by NSCDC over allegations ranging from tampering with NNPC pipes to scooping petroleum products and trading on it. Though locked up for 72 hours in NSCDC's custody, the detainees repeatedly denied involvement in such acts, a denial corroborated by the police and the NNPC.
I also want you to understand that this man did not just go there to make a verbal complaint. He also made statement.
Do we have copies of the statement?
Yeah, he made statement. He wrote a handwritten statement complaining of this problem.
Was the police supposed to report to the NSCDC?
It's not possible. We don't work under the civil defense. We did what we're supposed to do.
But the NSCDC boss raised questions about the knowledge of other authorities of the fuel wells when asked if he was aware.
Madam, you are very, very biased in your questions. We're talking about, you have seen the tape, you have seen the PMS coming out from the well. Did NNPC inform Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Lagos State Command? No. What about the police? No.
They are a young organization. The Nigeria Police and other law enforcement agencies will tell them how many lawsuits they have faced in court. And maybe when they get to that level, they will know the implication of taking actions without first looking at the real issues.
While some of the victims returned home with minor health issues, the pregnant woman among them lies here on the hospital bed. Her doctor says she and her unborn baby need special monitoring.
Work is in progress here. As you can see behind me, manual labor is ongoing to detect if there's any NNPC ruptured pipeline. But as I stand here, none has been confirmed ruptured.
While officials of the Oil Spill Detection Agency take notes as they move around, this environmental expert says no one living in this area can be held responsible for any oil spill here.
And you can see where we are, distance to where the affected houses are, you can see this a little bit higher. And water will go to the nearest level, they go to the lowest level. So that is exactly its attenuation. If we carry out health survey on children around here, they will have skin disease because most of the fuel, most of the water they are using is with benzene, and even if they drink it, sometimes you may have gastrointestinal disease. Yes, and sometimes if you have too much heavy metal in your body, you are playing with cancer.
Look at the issue of Barua. Barua has been on since 1996. Look at it. And the issue of Diamond Estate has been on since 2010. Now this one now. Ijegu is here and other areas. What are they doing to remediate all these things? What are they doing? Right? The federal government is not coming to the aid of people here. And you're getting these people arrested for what?
There are fears now that the earths in Alimosho local government, the largest in Lagos State, may have been affected by oil spills resulting from years of vandalism. The call is on the government at all levels to take proactive steps to finding a lasting solution to the problem before Lagos goes up in flames. Loretta Chiogo, Channels Television News.
There you go. Very serious matters there, and call to action. Professionals, observers alike, you can weigh in on this one. Just tweet at us. We'll appreciate it, while everyone just hopes that this will be attended to, perhaps with a little more velocity that they've done previously. All right, then, let's go for the headline news. Melinda Kilami is standing by with her. Morning, Melinda.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Welcome to the headlines. It was a victorious day for the Ondo State Governor, Olusegun Mimiko, after his election was confirmed by the court. The Supreme Court delivered judgment in two separate appeals by the former Action Congress of Nigeria candidate, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, and Mr. Olushola Oke of the People's Democratic Party, who were challenging the victory of Governor Mimiko. And following days of speculation about his state of health since his return, the Taraba State Governor, Tamba Basumtai, finally addressed the people in the state on Wednesday. The brief address had been previously recorded and was broadcast in a state-owned television station in Jalingo. Before that speech, the governor is reported to have met with the state's lawmakers and inaugurated the newly appointed secretary to the state government, Mr. Timothy Cape-Taps, as well as the chief of staff, Malam Aminu Jika. And meanwhile, some members of the Taraba State House of Assembly have asked Governor Tamba Basumtai to return to the United States to continue his medical treatment. 16 out of the 24 members of the Assembly resolved that the acting governor of the state, Garba Umar, should continue to serve in the state in acting capacity until such a time the governor is capable of taking charge of the state. In the meantime, the acting governor of Taraba State, Garba Umar, has insisted that the announcement of the dissolution of the State Executive Council and the appointment of a new secretary to the state government, as well as the chief of staff, should be disregarded. He maintained that the announcement was an attempt by a cabal to take over government. And on the foreign scene, the crisis in Syria is still a talking point, and the US has said it will act in its best interest in dealing with the situation after the British Parliament rejected military intervention. President Obama maintained that countries who violate international norms regarding the use of chemical weapons need to be held accountable. And those are the headlines. It's back to you, Chamberlain.
All right, then, thank you, Melinda. Well, let's get back to this matter. The Nigeria Labour Congress has suggested previously, in fact, they held some press briefing also. Perhaps it was a form of advance notice that possible strike, possible protest, because they said that what the Senate did during that amendment of the Constitution to remove the minimum wage matter from the exclusive list to the concurrent, and they feel, look, this has every potential to cause a major problem. Well, they've been talking about it in different quarters, but now they've addressed the press conference saying what has happened here, definitely they just wouldn't, even though they sat down and addressed the press, but they won't take it sitting down, as a matter of fact, but they came up with a communique and said, look, the Congress, yes, they were set to mobilize, but the implication of what that amendment did from the perspective of labor is that that prescription of a national minimum wage on the exclusive list, because of its potential, which they say will cause a pool of the working poor, judicial nightmare, it's a nightmare,
nightmare, yeah.
Slave labor, an environment for payment of arbitrary wages, which will differ from state to state, destruction of the economy, major industrial unrest, and worsening national security situation. How they came to all of this, they had a Congress, NLC, NEC, and then they said, look, if this were to allow to hold, they will hit the streets until the Senate rescinds itself, and they wouldn't have this. And so we're about to have another perhaps protest on our hands if, according to Labour, the Senate stays adamant.
Well, I think I like the clause there, the if, but you know that conditionality shouldn't have come if we have actually been objective and truthful to ourselves. I thought we went round as a people trying to look at a constitution amendment together. We did all the regional senatorial district and constituencies. So I don't know. So how come?
Wasn't the Labour? I mean, aren't workers a part of the constituencies?
Another language they use is carry along. So I thought they were also carried along. So if now we're getting to see this, it means maybe the man is somewhere in Sokoto, another one somewhere in Edo, Delta, everywhere, talked somewhere, didn't even contribute to any of what we're getting to see now. If a big visible NLC didn't participate to have seen all of this, to have raised any objection at that time, it means we don't have a people's constitution or constitution from the people. So constituents, who did you meet? Now I'm going back to what Governor Fashola asked then publicly. He said, well, they said you people voted and everybody said no. He said they said also you people, and people, it looked pedestrian, but that was the truth. He was trying to verify if his people actually gave their yes or no's to a particular bill or different bills or sections or amendments. Now with NLC coming up to say all of this, Chamberlain,
another big question mark.
I rest my case. If we have to go back and do this all over again, or we want the National Assembly, specifically the Senate, to speak up on this, the time for them to do that is now. Else, I'm getting to believe that someone sat somewhere in his office and rejigged all of that and brought it forward.
Oh dear.
I find it so interesting. Sulaiman, you had a very interesting angle. I would never have thought of that. But you know, for me, I don't think that Labour should go on strike. I mean, that would not be the way to solve, because this is a constitutional matter. We're talking about constitutional amendment. A host of people have said, if we're talking federalism, if we're talking true federalism, which is where our constitution should be looking, then we cannot be asking for unitary salaries. I mean, that will not work anywhere. That an employer should be able to determine how much he or she wants to pay or can afford to pay a laborer. And the laborer or the employee is not satisfied, and the laborer can actually leave office. I mean, you say, well, I choose not to work for you anymore. But you know, beyond that, I think that is actually going to strengthen unions at the state levels. Because then, I mean, if any government is trying to, you know, is trying to cheat workers, as it were, or not, you know, consider the welfare of workers, I think that, you know, they have better bargaining power. You know, at this, it should strengthen the labor unions at the state level. That's the advantage, or that's the opportunity I see here for Labour. But I don't think that it should elicit a strike. That will be far from it. I believe that this should actually be argued in a court of law. And I think that, yes, I think that Labour should take it upon themselves, you know, to go, if negotiations are not working, if you try lobbying and it's not working, and, you know, they insist that is what they're going to do because they are what they call that now, they are the National Assembly. I believe that Labour should say, we're taking you to court to go and, you know, argue this. Is this proper in a federal makeup of, you know, of a country? I know, we all know all the arguments for, you know, making a flat rate across, you know, border, but we also know that the cost of living across different states is not the same thing. I believe that some states should have it higher than some other states, and every state government, that's my personal belief, should have the leverage, you know, should have the freedom to be able to say, I can afford this much for my workers, so I'm going to pay them this much. Another side would say, I can't afford this much, but this is what I can afford, and this is what I think, or this is what I believe is reasonable. And Labour should be able to argue, you know, on a one-on-one basis in terms of state and the federal government, what exactly should be the take-home. It's going to be a very tricky one, because right now I know that I'll be sounding like I'm anti-populist, but for me, I believe that if we're looking at something that is truly federal in nature and in structure, then we should argue this out in a court of law.
Well, Labour, here is their position.
The overwhelming support of the Nigerian people, workers and constituents for the retention of labor and the prescription of a national minimum wage on the exclusive list and extant ILO conventions in support of same, and the fact that the national minimum wage is prescribed and retained on the exclusive list in over 90% of the nations of the world, the Nigerian Senate, against every grain of wisdom, removed labor and the national minimum wage from the exclusive list. And the National Executive Council in its meeting therefore resolved to, as follows: 1, mobilize its members across the country against the decision of the Senate because of its potential to create, among other things, 1, a pool of poor working people, a judicial nightmare, a slave labor, an environment for payment of arbitrary wages, destruction of the economy, major industrial unrest, and worsening national security situation.
All right, then let's take you through some of the front pages. We'll start with the Tribune, Nigerian Tribune. Sontai unfit to rule, Taraba Assembly asks him to go for further treatment. Says acting governor Omar still in charge. Sontai didn't dissolve cabinet. Omar, the 2015 connection. So all of this on page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune today. You may just check that out if you will. PDP convention, Jonathan loyalists gain upper hand. Anti-presidency forces in retreat. The story is on page 14. Then 2015, Jonathan eligible but shouldn't contest. Also, well, this one is on page 4. And Supreme Court upholds Mimiko's victory. We've been vindicated, Governor. Well, that's on page 2, and that's it with the Tribune.
Well, the Vanguard is next, and the big story is still very much in Taraba State. Sontai unfit to rule. Taraba lawmakers say he couldn't have written resumption letter. Insist Umar remains acting governor till further notice. Acting governor reverses sack of cabinet. Asks banks to honor only checks signed by him and the governor. Well, we'll leave that. Young shall grow boss. Police recover assailants' mobile phones. It's on page 7. IG orders tight security at PDP convention. Another read on page 9. And Anambra, PDP suspends Andy Uba, Chris Uba, associates, all on page 44. And even though it's Friday, we have Miss and Mrs. there, but I'll let you do that yourself. Well, PDP suspends Andy Uba, Chris Uba, associates.
I'm actually forced to make a face at Chamberlain. I was almost joking on something, but Chamberlain, we told you.
That what?
We told you
always
so.
have our own little arguments after the program.
You know what we told you. Don't pretend. This day newspapers is what I'm holding in my hand. Their major headline this morning is, along the headlines of all the other papers, Taraba Assembly tells Suntai's deputy to continue acting. The rider says governor is unfit to govern. Resumption letter was forged. Majority leader, others kick. Acting governor urges people to ignore dissolution of executive council. Is that a crisis we see brewing there? How Danjuma, others rallied to bring governor back. So you have details of this particular story on page 8. Taraba has definitely been the hottest thing in the news. You find details on page 8 of this day newspapers. Coming to the side of the paper and on the left-hand corner, PDP suspends Uba brothers. I'm making a face again at Chamberlain. Others over Anambra primary, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so much. Okay, party submits Nwoye's name to INEC. That's another drama we're waiting to see. Aliyu promises not to quit PDP. We also saw him on TV yesterday, clarifying certain things. You find it on page 8. It's been called, anyway, I'm not going to say what it's been called just in case he hasn't seen it. On top of the nameplate, Jonathan were not opposed to Sovereign National Conference. You find details on page 7. Another story says federal government loses $40 billion in investments to non-producing oil leases. You'll find details on page 10. The picture there is also the picture that's been all over the other papers. Mimiko celebrities tagged as the Supreme Court upheld the election result of the election that brought him to office. Well, that will be all for this day newspapers.
Well, The Guardian is the next one here, and they got just one major headline. Looks as if that's just one lead one. Suntai's letter not written by him, says Taraba Assembly. Insists governor not fit to work, deputy to take over. And then the story is on page 2, so let's go find out what is brewing in Taraba. And then they also tuck this one in somewhere. Rivers delegates to boycott convention. That's on page 4. So what does that mean? Are they going to wait for the VOP convention? Who knows?
VOP.
You never know. Really.
They have dissociated themselves. What party is that?
Well,
that's what they said.
Just flip to page 4 and see what's going on.
That was the reaction we got. Okay.
And then you also have PDP suspends Uba, others. That's on page 5 of the paper. So interesting political times here. And then that's it, The Guardian. So, and that also ends our look at some of the front pages. We'll return in just a moment. Please join us again. welcome back. Well, yes, we'll be continuing with developments in Taraba. Mr. Kenneth Odudika joins us this morning. He's a legal practitioner. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, thank you.
First and foremost, even before we go over to Sontai, I mean, also in the news is developments in Anambra. We've seen all political part, about 3 or 4. I mean, PDP, some of them paying 5 million, 10 million for the ticket, and now they have 2 parallel bodies. I mean, the PDP recognizes one, but the other one, we've seen, and PDP suspends Andy Uba, Chris Uba, associates. You see that in Vanguard, page 44, and all the other papers. Are you surprised at this?
I'm not surprised. And there's no, anybody who has been watching Anambra shouldn't be surprised. Then again, I wonder why people do not understand that it is the party, because that's what the law says, that will bring out their candidate, nominate their candidate, and send to INEC. And the party says it's Tony Nwoye. So, I don't know why one court somewhere says that it is now Andy Uba. Well, yeah, one court, I think, in Port Harcourt says it's Andy Uba. Meanwhile, the party itself has said it's Tony Nwoye. And the law says that up to Supreme Court level, that the way the process of bringing out a candidate is the internal arrangement of the party. And you don't inquire into that. That's not really a problem.
Why is it that? Because PDP says, look, they invited INEC. INEC didn't come for the ones that were invited. And then they went for the other one. And then INEC is also saying, look, they don't recognize 21 years group. And so it looks all muddled up.
I don't know what they mean by not recognizing a 21-year group. Because ultimately, PDP, Abuja, headquarters, would send the name of the candidate to them. So whether they recognize or don't recognize is irrelevant. Because it is what the PDP sends to them that they will act on. It's not for them to go and start going to villages to select people by themselves.
Is it a coincidence that he's also the chairman Senate Committee on INEC? Senator Uba.
You know, Senator Uba, he was sworn in as senator, but I haven't noticed that he's a senator in that place because he hasn't made any contribution, as far as I'm concerned. And honestly speaking, what is going on in Anambra State had always been expected. Quality people are afraid to get into that melee. It is all manner of characters that you now see there. Just 1 or 2 human, they're all human beings. 1 or 2 quality people that you see there. Tony Nwoye has always been there. It's not only PDP that is there, really. We have other parties there. There's one young man who has a party there, Okoye. He's also, with his own party, trying to come up. So what we should do is to ensure that of all the people we have there, that the best is still brought on board to salvage that state. And maybe the whole of people.
There's a little bit of history behind that, though. You know, the INEC had already written to PDP to tell them that, you know, they already had problems in terms of how they brought the officials to office, so that it was Mr. Wegbo, so that INEC was going to be recognized, and when his faction did their own primaries, that was why INEC decided to attend that as well. So you can see that there's actually a root to this particular problem. But how do you see all of this being resolved?
Who invited INEC to Diogo Wegbo's primary?
They would have.
No, who? Would I say who is? Villages don't start inviting INEC. Wards don't start inviting INEC.
Well, if the chairman of the party who INEC recognizes had invited them, why wouldn't INEC show up?
Should it be from the state or from the national headquarters? I'm just asking.
But you
it's
tell
a question.
Us, because you've been an aspirant, a governorship aspirant. How does it work? How does it operate?
That's what I'm telling you. So, unless INEC has some other interest, you know, Anambra is always it's a money making.
Why is that? Because yesterday we tried to analyze and say, why is it that in the southeast, whenever it's about Anambra, it's quite a heated...
There is so much money to be made by everybody from Anambra.
Wow.
You send anybody to Anambra, the person comes out a billionaire. That's the problem. So they must create some confusion. You know, it's when there's confusion that people will make all kinds of money. So INEC people are going to make money from Anambra State. And if it goes smoothly, they will make that money. When Governor Suswan came to Anambra when it was our time, I know what happened with his 22 bus loads of people from his state. They all went that way smiling. Yes. The amount of money we paid for the forms was unprecedented.
Was it still 10 million?
And we're not giving receipts. You say, okay, this is 10 million. They will give you 10 rims. of the form. They will not count your money. And of course,
10 reams of form.
Let me get something. People paid in cash.
Oh yes.
Okay, then cashless policy wasn't.
You pay, you give you the forms for the delegates, and you walk away. They won't count your money. They don't need to count it. We told you that it was all a charity. So the people go to Anambra to make money. That's what it's all about. And be not deceived. PDP will take part, because some people are always saying, oh, because we're not sure of their candidate, PDP will take part in this election.
And some are already saying that this might also, snowball into the episode we've seen before in River State, the Omehia Amechi period. You think that will? No, it's not exactly playing out that way, because you see, in the Rivers case, Governor Amechi's name, Governor Amechi won. His name was sent. We weren't talking about factions here. So his name was sent to INEC and then withdrawn. Here, PDP has sent one name. You can see what has happened now. Some people have been suspended. And you cannot contest election in Nigeria as an independent candidate. So if PDP is not sponsoring you, do you still have where are you going to? And PDP has not submitted your name, not talking about withdrawing it.
And it's a party that must submit
candidates. Your party boss, that's what the law says.
And it's a party at the national level.
When they say party, are you talking about villages and wards?
Interesting.
Oh dear, well, all eyes will be on this one to see how INEC eventually plays, because I mean this will be a major pointer, because we have elections in 2014 and 15. So all of this will all be in the focus. But let's flip back to Taraba. Again, headlines, look at this one, Suntai unfit to rule, Taraba lawmakers. Then another one saying, look, he should go back and continue treatment. The State Assembly saying, look, he can't actually take over. What's going on? From your perspective, what do you see playing out?
What I see playing out is some juvenile inclinations playing themselves out. Suntai came back to Nigeria, did what the law said he should do, transmitting a letter to the to the Speaker. The law does not say that the Speaker has to consider it or the Speaker has to make a pronouncement on it. You check your constitution; it's not there. So all this, we'll consider it on Wednesday, we'll consider it on Tuesday. They were just playing to the gallery.
But lawyer said yesterday, they were saying, look, he has to be sure that it was the governor that wrote the letter.
Good, because I was even coming to that.
Because you're a lawyer as well.
That's exactly. You see, the lawyer says that the Speaker should be sure that it's was it delivered by Ekene Lichuku Transport Service. So, and because they now went on to say, oh, this letter is a forgery. What empowers him to make that declaration? Not just even any policeman can come out and say it's a forgery. That document should be subjected to certain forensic analysis. It's not every, like I said now, I don't know, in a labo, they used to have that. So you can't just walk into a DPO's office and say, is this fake? Has that been done? And if it's been done, where's the report? If it's been done, then he would have given us, look, it was found out that this didn't sign it. In fact, the IG said, because his team had checked, it has not been done. Why? That's why I said they're playing out juvenile. They still think they're in primary school or secondary school. If these people were serious about what they're supposed to do, this man, the governor, has not fallen afoul of the law. Let him, if not even let him, because they're already taken over. And you can hear the former acting governor now trying to challenge his boss. That's the deputy governor, because what he is the deputy governor. He was acting governor. The moment this man transmitted that letter, automatically the former acting governor went back to his position of deputy governor. That's what has happened. So he can say whatever he likes, because, well, free speech. You can say whatever he wants.
Look at that picture there. I mean, you talked about them, verifying. How did they verify? We also understand that the Speaker and some members of the House of Assembly were there to visit the governor. Was it a couple of days back, about 2 days back? And it's possible they were not satisfied that he truly signed the letter that was transmitted to them.
The Speaker said something after the letter. He said the way the man was speaking, that's what I heard. That the way the man was speaking, he didn't think he was fit enough to govern the state. So the man was even speaking to them. The man shook their hands. If I could shake your hand, what does it take me to sign my signature or even write my initials? I'm not saying.
So even if he writes his initials.
No. I said to sign his signature.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how he signs his signature. Now, I'm not saying that authoritative that the man signed the letter, but I'm saying that why is that a problem now? If you think the man didn't sign that, you've got it. You haven't conducted the kind of analysis you're supposed to conduct on that document. You go on with the governance, then unless you don't even know what to do, you don't know what to go about it, you believe that you honestly believe, you being the house, that this man cannot govern. And if you have the interest of the state at heart, you know what to do to still remove the man. You're not doing that.
Because
and you're not taking it upon yourself to also be a medical panel to say he is unfit.
Because Mr. Odetika, we actually looked at two issues yesterday. Good thing you said you watched the program. We're trying to also look at the EXCO, the Executive Council of the State, before it was dissolved. What would they have been able to do, constitutionally speaking?
They know it's there in the Constitution. I don't have the section. I think it's 180 or whatever of the COF now. Before the dissolution, the 2/3 of the members appointed by the governor. Not it's stated clearly there. And he described them, the commissioners appointed by the governor could easily have demanded that this declare that the man didn't seem fit to continue in office, and then the panel would have been set up. They would have demanded that. They didn't do that. The man came back and then sacked them. Anybody telling you that sack is irregular doesn't know what he's saying.
So he's valid.
Look, governor, president can sack the appointees for no reason. That's what the law says. For no reason. So this man now comes back and sacks his appointees, commissioners. And you're telling him he couldn't have done that. And then the deputy governor says his boss. Did the deputy governor appoint them? I appointed them. I have sacked them. And I'll take my time to decide who we're going to appoint. In Imo State, do you have commissioners for how many months now? The man sacked them. He didn't tell us why he was sacking them. And we don't have a right to ask him why he was sacking them. Legally. So up to today, he doesn't have commissioners. This one has sacked his own commissioners. And you're saying no. Go back. Go back to where? What they're doing now, actually, they're setting a stage for the president to declare a state of emergency in that place.
Meaning we don't have any reason whatsoever to say, well, we're in a log jam, because now you say the ESCO under section 189, as well as even the assembly, should have been able to solve the situation.
No, the ESCO should have solved it prior to their dissolution. Now the people can solve it if they believe they have a problem.
So you still think that you still think the dissolution stands?
Oh, of course it does stand. How can you say it doesn't stand? The man said, I've dissolved you, I've sacked you. And you're still telling him he can't do that? How many times have you had the government come and say himself that he's sacking anybody? Even the president, he just sacked a minister.
Because that was what Honorable Suraj was saying the other day, that look, he didn't announce it, he didn't brief them. I think he even said Mr. Falana also said the sacking was not right. And if I
I read somewhere that Femi said the sacking wasn't right. Well, that's our opinion. But what I'm saying is this: did you hear President Jonathan say, "I am sacking the Minister of Sports"?
But we know that we know that we don't have a question mark hanging over, the president.
No, you can place any question mark. That's your prerogative.
Don't we have a right to place a question mark? I mean, we've seen how things have evolved, over time in Taraba State. We cannot hide our heads in the sand and say we don't know why this crisis is brewing. I mean, here was someone who had an accident. It was a miracle that he survived in the very first instance. He was away. He's been away for at least 10 months. He's back now. He's back. People are still not sure of how fit he is, because you don't know how truly fit he is. That address that was given yesterday, I don't know if you finally saw it or heard, his words were very faint. Don't we have cause to question? Are we sure that the governor is truly in the right frame of health, to be able to take back the affairs of the state?
What you're asking is a correct question. But my point is this: has he breached any law? You see, that's why they say the law is an ass. It's not about sentiments or morality. He's not looking very fit. But I'm not a doctor. I'm saying what I'm seeing as a normal human being. But he is not looking very fit. He's not a doctor examining him and saying, this is the report. This man is not fit to administer the state.
That's what the Constitution wants us to.
Section 189.
Yes. So now, the commissioners didn't do that. The House don't have the power on its own to just go about doing that. But the House can use some other means to get the man, to hold the man accountable. It's not for me. If they want to advise me, they can come to my office and pay and let me consult for them. But here, what I'm telling you right away is this: that the House, if they are serious really about the governance in Taraba State, should know how to go about removing the man if they think he cannot govern their state. Not the way they're going about it now is to create a problem, which will, because when the governor moves, does something, the deputy counters it, House counters it. The next thing you know, there will be physical crisis. They are still speaking English now. The next thing now, there will be physical crisis, violence.
Because it has that potential.
Of course it does. Because if I want to enter the door, say no, I can't enter, a former commissioner, acting governor, they will not say there's no acting governor. There's the governor, the right governor is there in his seat. So what is going to happen? And that's what we saw in Port5 will actually be a joke. There will be non-police officers will be fighting themselves with the help of their supporters. So that's what it might degenerate to. When you're going to say, I'm still acting governor, and the other guy is saying, no, you're not. I'm the governor. What's going to happen?
It would seem that, somebody is not following the law here. It's like somebody is in breach, because if we're truly following the Constitution, then we should have no room for crisis here. It doesn't look like somebody has followed. Let's take the instance.
I won't call somebody name, because I told you the governor sometimes has not followed the law. So
even that, some people will say that yes, he might have followed the letters of the law, but the spirit in which the letters were written haven't been followed.
You see, well, when we use the word spirit here, I'm sure we're not talking about the Pentecostal part of it, because I heard a lawyer here yesterday say that the morality, law is not about morals, it's not about sentiments. If Suntai were to be my brother, younger, or I think younger definitely, or my son, or even my friend, I would tell him, I wouldn't even let him get near that place. I mean the government house. But again, let us also be realistic in Nigeria. Who can pay the hospital bills of that man if he's out of that place? Have you thought about that? And this is not being legal now. I'm talking about the sentiments. Have you thought about that? Might be the reason the man is holding on to that seat, so that his bills could still be met by the state.
Holding on to the seat, why would they want to kick him out of the seat? Because we've also asked that question. He's still the governor of Taraba State. He's not dead. He is still very much alive. He was away for so long. Yes, he was, but the Constitution says nothing about how long he could be away for.
I don't know if the Constitution says nothing about how long you're going to stay for, because I didn't start that part for us to discuss, but if I did here, you could check. It might not be indefinite. However, do you know that if I'm the acting governor, that means I am the governor? Yeah. Which is why you have to transmit your letter when you're back. So I could decide to stop those payments.
So the letter, the rejection of that particular letter, what does that portend?
There can't be any rejection. If you don't have a power to reject something, you can't reject it. There's no power to reject. Yeah, I didn't read it.
But what our guest was talking about yesterday was the transmission process being complete. For you to receive and acknowledge something, you must accept that yes, this letter is actually from this person.
That is not true. That is not true. We're speaking English here. You said I should transmit, and you have acknowledged this letter by your clerk, maybe by your secretary or whatever, acknowledged by James John. Date.
No, but that's
the receipt. You will now pass it on to, so what it means is that the speaker has read it.
That receipt is based upon certain assumptions. That someone sends you a letter.
Yes.
You receive it. That's a physical receiving.
Yes.
But for you to accept that this is truly from that person is based on certain assumptions, oftentimes which you're taking for granted. Mm-hmm. But in this particular situation, it would seem that, the speaker has had cause to question it. Can he now then have said, to have received something from the governor if he's not sure that it's truly from the governor?
The first thing I said when we said discussing this side, that the speaker is not qualified to determine the authenticity of that letter.
What about the House?
No, but when I say speaker, I mean the House. Are they now, who trained them in how to check whether the signature is correct? Who trained them to check how the slants and the marks? They are not trained for that. It's not even their job. So a letter has come from the governor, the letter has come from the governor. That's even part of what he could use to impeach him if he wanted to do that. Let him continue doing his work. You now send the letter for forensic analysis. They check it and find out that it is, yes, they're supposed to do, they can do that. That's what I'm saying. It's not my job to be teaching them what they should do.
You know, you were on a train of thought, or argument rather. I wanted us to explore further a bit of logic there. You said that the speaker read the letter even though he didn't accept it. So are you saying for the fact that he read it,
he has got it?
He's got it.
Yes, and that's all the law requires from the governor. Send this letter to this man, not even to the house, to the speaker. And the speaker has acknowledged on television, because I was told that, look, I don't believe that this man signed this letter. So you read it to have seen it was signed. They didn't just type something and scan to you. You read it and saw that it was signed. But you're saying that this man, the man I saw yesterday, couldn't have signed this letter. So that is you now. That is your own opinion. A doctor, you are not. Even if you're a doctor, you are not his doctor. You've not been examining him. You're not a police. You're not a trained. You don't have to policeman, but you're not trained to check the authenticity or otherwise of documents. So, what power? Where do they have your power? What authorizes you to now say no? This document is not from Governor Sontai.
So reading it all by itself means, look, you're in receipt of that letter.
He has already said he's in receipt of it. He denied receiving it, but he's saying that it didn't emanate from Governor Sontai.
So it's just the believability that is in
which
question.
he doesn't have the power to say, because I asked a question. Did it come by courier? DHL sent it. Even if he did, who did DHL receive it from? If it came to the normal channel from government house to you, and your people who should receive and pass on to you, and you read it, say no, that man I saw could have signed this.
Let me quickly show you, the writers here for this day newspapers. I guess I'm almost out of time now. But what we can see here is, already a melee for a recipe for disaster. Well, how would you suggest that they find a way out of this?
Let the man continue, then check 1 or 2 steps to now to convince, for you to now be convinced legally that he is unfit to govern. Legally. So that we know, you said I didn't say, he said she didn't say. There are steps you can take. Let the man, he's there.
Are you not afraid that, sorry, Chairman, are you not afraid that he could actually be ruling by proxy?
That if?
That somebody could actually be taking over the reins of the state and the governor will be ruling by proxy?
I don't know why we are so afraid of this ruling by proxy. When you appoint people, are you not ruling by proxy? Your ministers, if in the US, your secretary of, secretaries, they're ruling by proxy. There's no way you can do it all alone anyway. So if all is that it is that the man is lying there on his bed and his commissioners are afraid of him, so they have to do their work well. He's governing. But if you must get him out, like I said, there are steps you can take to get him out without creating this tension.
We'll come back and continue and look at some other matters on this one. Melinda Kinlame is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. And a quick look at the headlines. It was a victorious day for the Ondo State Governor, Olusegun Mimiko, after his election was confirmed by the courts. The Supreme Court delivered judgment in 2 separate appeals by the former Action Congress of Nigeria candidate, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, and Mr. Olushola Oke of the People's Democratic Party, challenging the victory of Governor Mimiko. And following days of speculation about his state of health since his return, the Taraba State Governor, Dambaba Suntai, finally addressed the people in the state on Wednesday. The brief address had been previously recorded and was broadcast on the state-owned television station in Jalingo. And meanwhile, some members of the Taraba State House of Assembly have asked Governor Dambaba Suntai to return to the United States to continue his medical treatment. 16 out of the 24 members of the Assembly resolved that the acting governor of the state should continue to serve in the state in acting capacity until such a time the governor is capable of taking charge of the state. In the meantime, the acting governor of Taraba State, Garba Umar, has insisted that the announcement of the dissolution of the State Executive Council and the appointment of a new secretary to the state government, as well as the chief of staff, should be disregarded. On the foreign scene, the crisis in Syria is still a talking point, and the U.S. has said that it will act in its best interest in dealing with the situation after British Parliament rejected military intervention. President Obama maintained that countries who violate international norms regarding the use of chemical weapons need to be held accountable. And those are the headlines. It's back to you, Chamberlain.
All right, thank you, Melinda. Continuing our focus on the developments in Taraba, we still have Kenneth Odedika, who is a legal practitioner. You say that, first of all, the House of Assembly cannot even ask him to go back and continue treatment because they're not a medical panel or physician?
They're not. As usual, they just, these are how you fond of passing resolutions. Results, the man should go back. Based on what?
And now we see that about 17 of the lawmakers seem to be on the same page, saying, look, he has to go back. And you say that is based on complete falsehood from the point of law.
Even if it's all of them. Even if it's, I don't know how many there are in the House. Let's assume that 25. And the whole 25 say, oh, we resolved to advise him to go back. That's all they can do. And calling the former acting governor, the current deputy governor, referring to him as acting governor, is wrong.
How do one determine permanent incapacity? Because, I mean, I've heard some lawyers say that, I can't remember which case they cited now, but they were saying that the absence of either the governor, the deputy, or the vice president, or the president, his physical presence, if he's absent alone, he doesn't even have to be physically challenged or not capable, but to the extent that he's not even there alone, can be determined as permanent incapacity. Do you think that's correct?
Well, in this case, it's about capacity, direct capacity to govern, or he's not there physically to govern. But in this case, the man is back in Nigeria. He's in Taraba State. So what we're talking about is now, physically, medically, is he incapacitated? And I'm saying that the House of Assembly is not so empowered to make such a decision.
What if they're making this statement, perhaps because they've seen his medical report, and then they make this statement? Will that change the dynamics?
If they've seen his medical report, I can assure you by now it will be published. Not only will they be talking about it. No reference has been made to it. Not by the speaker, not by anybody, or not by the deputy governor. What they're saying is, we have seen this man. The speaker said, the way he was speaking slowly. I don't believe this man can govern the state in his current, Taraba State, in his current state.
But that is not sufficient.
That is not sufficient. Is he a doctor? Did he examine the man?
But the doubts, I mean, he's allowed to have such doubts.
You're allowed to have your opinion. This is a free country.
You don't seem to have any of those doubts.
What? First of all, I saw the man help down the craft. I saw the man, well, not physically. I also saw the man speaking to them. I saw him shake their hand. Granted, he's not behaving like Lionel Messi or Serena Williams. But, because he's been in an accident. But to not tell me he can't govern because I believe he cannot. Get the people that should do it to do it. That's what I'm saying. Why are we... Look, when I leave you now, I'm driving straight to my office. So why do I have to go to Onitsha first? To then come back to Lagos and go to Lekki? When I can easily just get out there and turn left and go to Lekki. That's what I'm saying. So why are they causing trouble? It's not necessary. They're creating room for all of them to even lose out.
Because I'm seeing section 190 now. It says, whenever the governor transmits to the Speaker of the House of Assembly a written declaration that he is proceeding, okay, this is on vacation, or that he is otherwise unable to discharge the functions of his office until he transmits to the Speaker of the House of Assembly a written declaration to the contrary, such functions shall be discharged by the deputy or as acting governor. Okay, now this was when he becomes acting governor, but some then say, which is the point that we seem to be dwelling on now, that he's written, but they say no, you're not the one that wrote it. Because I remember asking that question yesterday to the lawyer. I said, look, if the speaker said, look, he's not the one that wrote it, he has to be the one that wrote that letter. So is it still the same thing you're saying that, look, well,
how you know what's the one? That's my question still remains. How does the speaker now know? Is he now an expert? There's a name they call it. Whatever, to now tell us that that thing I'm looking at was not written by Governor Suntai.
So even if the speaker was there and he saw that somebody wrote it and somebody else signed it, he cannot say, nope, the governor didn't sign this letter.
That would have been now be a first-hand experience. I was there when Mr. A wrote and signed. But it was in his office and they gave it to him.
No, but if
and he's saying that this letter, the man I saw yesterday couldn't have written this letter. That's what he's saying. Not that I was there when Mr. I don't know their names, whoever wrote it and signed. He's saying, yes, I got this letter, but this letter definitely couldn't have been written by this social man who I'm sure is not well.
What if he was told authoritatively that the governor didn't sign this letter?
By who? If you know these politicians, he would have told you now the chief medical director, governor's physician has told me governor didn't sign this letter. In fact, he cannot sign it. In fact, he's almost dead. That's how Nigerian politicians work. Whatever advantage they have, they're wrong with it. For them not to still be telling you, we believe he didn't do it, means they don't have any better.
No, but for them to say no, he didn't sign this, they will have some information.
Where is it? Because you're not even empowered to say that. That's what I'm saying. You're not empowered to say the man didn't do that because you're not in a position to say that.
Okay, but if I saw maybe another person writing or another person
they would have said it. They would have said it. That's because right now you're just making a general statement. That man I saw couldn't have written it. No, but if you saw you said he didn't write it. It's Mr. Let me use an Igbo man. It's Mr. Okafor that signed it, that wrote and signed it. Then you can't just say no. Governor Sultan didn't write and sign it, just like that, and you expect us to now say, okay, you're right. Right based on what?
So
right based on what?
If a third party tells the speaker that the governor didn't write or sign this letter, would that be tenable? If that third party is not a medical director? That's
what I'm saying.
Okay.
If the police, after investigation, says because they put the imprimatur on it, that is, we are saying we have found out that Governor Suntai did not write or sign this letter. It's a different thing. It's coming from the correct source. Or if his personal physician, even now, says, though that will still be subject to some other things, but at least that will give us further comfort to say, look, this man shouldn't be near here. Says, my patient cannot administer. He can't recognize people. He's whatever language they want to use, but let me use the layman's term, he's brain dead. That is personal physician now talking. And after further examination, I'm saying confirming that this man is incapable of governing the state. That is personal physician.
You know what I'm getting in all of this? It's quite easy and a simple affair, but we're making it look so difficult. After all, we all knew the hospital he went to, and he has his own personal physician that accompanied him. So the ESCO, before the dissolution, since you also say, well, that dissolution stands, should have actually kick-started Section 189 of the Constitution with his personal physician and four others, part of the committee, to ascertain his health status. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Now that we haven't done that, because from what Mark saw on the front page of this day, it means that it looks like we're almost coasting into big trouble in Taraba State. How do we avert all of this?
I said it before. I said, let the man do his work as governor, whether you believe he's doing it directly or indirectly. Let him do that. Now you believe that he's not fit and your state is going to get messed up. You kickstart. There's steps you can take. Let's even take the simplest one. Who appropriates for a state? It's not House of Assembly, just like the National Assembly appropriates for the Federation. Wasn't money spent? I said, this is not for me to be consulting for these people. Wasn't money spent? Why don't you ask the governor to come and explain how the money was spent? Who appropriated the money he used in Germany and the US? And the man, you find out the man cannot come. And when you go and look at why you can impeach a governor, it's just about the Constitution, gross misconduct against the Constitution. Second arm, gross misconduct as in the opinion of the House. So, Speaker can call the governor, and he doesn't take the call. He tells you, look at the way we are being insulted. The House will determine that within themselves that this is a gross misconduct and get the man thrown out. So why are they creating this problem? Unless there's something else they want to achieve.
I have a question from Emmanuel Njoko, who is a lawyer. He says to ask, does it now mean that any letter that comes out from the governor's office with his signature on it is simply authentic and must be accepted and acted upon, even when there are glaring signs that a fraud has been perpetrated in producing the same letter?
I am surprised the lawyer said this. Even when it's glaring that fraud. You know what that means? So it's very established as fraud. Please, where have we established in this case that there's fraud? That's what I'm saying. Why won't this just go on and let the police and pass this letter, that particular letter, not even a photocopy of it, pass it on to the police. This is Speaker of the House. He can call the Commissioner of Police, or he can even call the IG. See our problem. And I'm sure you even know now, you IG. Please help us find out this. If it's authentic, what is our problem? We elected him anyway. We'll continue with him. But if it's not, then we disregard it and put back. And then you shouldn't even now find out who perpetrated this. Then it will be fraud. So you can now arrest the person who, obviously not the governor, who has been it anyway. So you can now arrest the person who perpetrated it. So I'm surprised the lawyer used such.
Do you see any similarities between this incident and that of late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua?
First of all, when we were all speculating, we were told one aircraft parked beside the bushes, and that ambulance went there and took somebody from it. So nobody saw the president. Some fat-bellied pastors went and said they saw him, and that they told them what they came out and told us some stories. This one, like I said, we saw this man being helped. I didn't say he walked on his own. So obviously, but don't forget a former president of the United States governed the United States from a wheelchair. So he was helped down the stairs of the craft. He had addressed them. At least we saw it. They didn't say he's his look-alike. He addressed the state, even if it was for 1 second. He welcomed visitors. He shook their hands. He smiled. Because formerly we were hearing that he even didn't smile. He didn't raise his hand. He shook their hand. He smiled. He greeted them, whatever it is, whatever language he used. So it is not exactly the same thing. However, realistically, if we want to, like Nigerians, we know that behind all this, both from A and B side, that's why I told you who will pay the man's bills if he's not there. The other people also are not doing that for Taraba State. It's all about power and money that are put in their pockets. That is why that's why they don't want to follow the due process themselves. It's so simple. This should be on the page of any newspaper.
Well, Mr. Keji then says, look, what then would you describe as permanent incapacity?
I'm not even in a position to do that. It's not something I would say. I just said it here. My patient is incapable of handling this office. He has this or that. They will not start using all their medical jargons. How can I say that? I'm a lawyer. Ask me about the illegalities. I'll tell you what constitutes.
So even if a court were to determine this matter, it will be with the benefit of medical.
Of course, that's the way. It is just a doctor. It is what they present to him that he will use to make a pronouncement. Based on what is going on now, I continue saying it. The man has not breached the constitution. That's the governor.
Some other arguments which they put out there is that, well, if I write and say, I'm back, I'm available to govern, and I can't do that, and I don't make myself, or they don't see me being available to govern, wouldn't that also pass as I'm incapable of discharging that function?
Who is not seeing him governing?
The state.
Which state? How many people see Fashola, as much as he drives around Lagos, even without we don't even know his person in passing? How many people actually see him? Chibe that's moving all over the place. How many people actually see him? There are some people who would see ordinarily anyway. Peter Obi carries his bag himself. But how many people actually see him? You're talking about big governance. And I've told you, if you believe that you're convinced, look, this man is not capable to govern us, something is wrong here, there are ways of doing it without even any noise. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, go on. Then I've said the simplest one. The money you used to pay for this hospital, come and explain it to us. You know, if he's that sick, if he can't talk, if he can't reason, he can't come to you to.
So that means even section 1932, which says the governor of a state shall hold regular meetings with the deputy governor and all commissioners of the government of the state for the purposes of course, determining general directions of the policies of the government of the state, and it goes on and on.
Yeah,
what if they say they don't see him being able to do
it? It
this?
hasn't happened yet. You see, they jumped the gun. That's why I say it's not, they're not doing this for Taraba State. They jumped the gun. It says shall hold meetings. The man just came back. So would they have held the meeting inside the aircraft? It's 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. Usually some states hold their meetings every week. So the first week, they say he's not feeling very well. The second week, he went to visit his daughter in a school. The third week, I said, come on. Then he can start raising the issues.
Okay, in other words, we're too quick with this one. So he should have accepted the letter, perhaps get an expert
to check the
authenticity of the letter, and if it turns out to be fake, then you can now bring that to the people again.
Not even the people. Why waste your time? You don't want to create, because remember, their job is not to create problem for Taraba State. They're supposed to govern Taraba State. So when you found out that it is fake, or if you find out it is fake, you now tell the IG to go further now, find out who perpetrated that. Meanwhile, you can now come to the house and say, this letter with the report from the Nigeria police.
It becomes a case of forgery.
Of course, you cannot sit down in your house in the House of Assembly and say, we have a forgery on our hands. And you are not talking authoritatively. Because the person in whom resides the power to declare that thing a forgery has so declared it. So it is no longer your agenda. Because right now, it's looked at the speaker has his own agenda.
Oh. What does this mean? George Okusuna says Section 190 does not require the governor to write the letter. The section only requires the governor to transmit same.
That's another dimension. He said to transmit. So what I say is that his aide can write it. Well, but in any case, when that would be stretching it too far. I mean, somebody has to sign it, and the person that will sign it should be the governor.
Are we being sentimental about all of this? Because looking at your analysis, looking at the Constitution, and all that has happened, are we sentimental?
No, I said that. Yes, we are being sentimental, and the we I mean are those who are saying the man should get the hell out of that seat. They're the people who are being sentimental. The law, and you see, you don't go and add or subtract when in interpretation when it's clear. And this is clear enough. Transmit. That's deliver. Pass on to. So how can anybody now say that confers on me the power to query that on my own just right away to say no, I won't accept this. I'm not sure it's from you. In fact, I think it's not from you. I don't have that power. The moment as soon as he wrote that letter, he has taken over office. That's what I'm saying. So the former acting governor who goes back to his position as deputy governor is actually the person who has committed a gross violation against the Constitution right now by challenging his boss and saying that he still remains the governor. You are now in effect saying that you have carried out a coup and removed the governor.
But he's not the one saying it. Is the
deputy governor is saying I'm still the governor.
It's not the one saying it.
No, he said it himself.
It's the assembly that is empowering him to keep acting, and as acting governor, he's saying.
So you mean they are all now? How many of them are in that house plus the deputy governor? That's 20-something people have carried out a coup, are currently carrying out a coup against the state of Taraba and Nigeria in general. Because the man reversed to deputy governor. And the House of Assembly does not have the power to tell him to sit in office when the incumbent is still there and alive.
Okay, look at this headline, which is part of what we're talking about. Santana and fit to rule Taraba lawmakers, but the last two riders says, acting governor reverses sack of cabinet, asks banks to honor only checks signed by him and the governor.
That last one, first of all, tells you what this is all about. It's all about money. For a start. He needs more money to continue telling the members of the House.
Who, the Taraba?
The deputy? Don't call him acting governor. The deputy governor. He's not acting governor. The governor is back. You're only acting when I'm not there. I'm there, so he can't be acting for me. So the deputy governor, it's all about money. They want to continue having access to the money. So he gets it and distributes. That is, I said that before you even pointed out.
But he's included the governor. I mean, asks banks to recognize the only check signed by him and the governor.
Who is he to tell banks? When did he? So when you're driving your vehicle with your 4 tires, does the spare tire come and join in this in running on the road? Is it not when you have a flat tire that you now park your car and bring out the spare tire and put?
In this case.
So who gave him the voice to even speak?
So in this case,
talk to banks.
Don't you think we have a flat?
We don't, because the 4 tires are moving. If you now think that one of them is wobbling, then you call the the mechanics or the vulcanizers or whatever, which they have refused to do.
So that's the 189 were the medical people coming in.
So that'll be the vulcanizer.
Yeah, but the commission didn't do that. So what it could have done, what it can still do is, I've told you, call this man, come and tell me where it's.
We've had a problem. You know, we had a flat a long time ago. We put in the spare tire a long time ago.
Now we vulcanize the tire and put back and put the spare tire back in the boot where it belongs. And it's still, and now, please, you see, let us not be sentimental about this. This deputy governor had no right to open his mouth to start talking to banks. He did that when he was acting governor.
Eventually, do you see this going to the court? I mean, now that the banks are involved, because I mean, you're going to be leaving the banks confused in this kind of situation.
Well, if I were a bank MD, I would honor anything that comes from Suntai.
Not Umar.
As what? Unless Suntai tells me now honor something from Umar. You want my license to be withdrawn?
Oh,
Umar is deputy governor.
Withdraw license based on that? Okay, for infraction.
Of course not.
If you
somebody just, you know that this is deputy governor. the governor is there, and then he brings and says transfer $500 million, which is what they all be working towards now.
Okay, let's end with this. Does this echo your thoughts? It says, Michael Jan says the speaker is legally bound to accept, then he may investigate its veracity.
Is that what I just said here? He doesn't have a choice.
Will a thumbprint be allowed?
A what?
A thumbprint.
It depends on how he's been signing.
Okay.
Can he change how he's been signing?
He has to change it by saying, I used to sign like this, now I sign this way. Unless his hands are cut off, then they'll bring that's in the accident or something, then they'll bring whatever medical to say, look, having his hand cut off, there's no other way he can sign except by using his stump print or some fingers. You know, you can't, if you lose a thumb, it's very difficult to sign with the other 4 fingers. So it could be said, look, because of this, he now can only print using his
we have a very interesting dimension there. Very, very interesting one. So, I mean, it was an accident, assuming he had lost his hands. I mean, the question of signature now.
Without reason.
All right, Kenneth Odidika is a legal practitioner. Thank you very much indeed for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having
me. We'll return. We've got other perspectives coming through in a moment. Please join us again.
Some say it's a sharp pain. Some might even say it's a shocking pain. And it's usually caused by hot, cold drinks. It definitely affects the quality of life. The treatment for tooth sensitivity can be very simple. Brushing with Sensodyne twice daily will give you long-lasting protection from tooth sensitivity. Sensodyne works inside the tooth and it soothes the nerve, and then the patient will have a relief of their pain. Sensodyne can be used every day. You don't have to use another toothpaste. For me to have a toothpaste that solves that problem so simply is what I like about Sensodyne.
Channels Television presents the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, where one student in Nigeria stands a chance of winning the top prize of a sponsored trip to the 2013 Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany. 50,000 naira worth of books and exciting consolation prizes for the runners-up. How to participate? Candidates should read and write not more than 1,500 words on Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The submitted essay must have a title, the candidate's full name, contact number, school, principal's name and contact. Essays should be sent to the Channels Book Club at channelstv.com. For further information, visit www.channelstv.com or call Kunle on 080-333-20974 or Orelua on 0813-845-7084. Entry closes August the 31st, 2013. The Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, supported by Lufthansa German Airline, the Turner Books and Goethe Institute.
Six minutes past 8. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, Rima Shawulu joins us now. He's a public affairs analyst from Abuja studios to continue our focus on the developments in Taraba. Morning and thank you for joining us today. Well, not sure if you heard the recent comments, but of course you might have come across some headlines, even previous ones, concerning the position of the State House of Assembly, even that of Umar, who was acting, and that's what divided now how to refer to him. But give us your perspective on this matter. What do you think is going on, and perhaps from the point of law as well? in Taraba.
It's off, no hearing. Yeah, good morning. I can't really hear you from here.
All right, but you are aware of the development in Taraba State. You've read the recent comments from the House of Assembly saying he is unfit to rule. He should go back and get more treatment. And Umar saying he's reversing the sack. What's your perspective on that?
Well, it's very clear that from all that we've heard in the newspapers, there are problems, there are issues in Taraba State, namely that for the first time in the history of this country, we have a deputy governor saying that the governor does not have the right to do the duties that he wants to perform because he needed the permission of the State House of Assembly to perform those duties. It is strange to our constitution, it is strange to the politics of Nigeria because as many analysts have pointed out, immediately the governor got to the state and transmitted a letter. If you recall, during the President Yaradua saga, the Senate President even did mention that a transmission to the Assembly could include a radio broadcast for which a BBC broadcast by the then President was used. And now we have a situation where the governor actually signed a letter and said, I have come back to resume. And then some members of the State House of Assembly said they have gone to see the governor and that the governor is not fit to perform his duties. Well, these members of the State House of Assembly in the first place are not doctors. They cannot. They have the power to start a process of doctors verifying whether the governor is healthy enough to perform his duties. But they don't have the powers to say that the governor can or cannot perform his duties or that the governor is not well enough, because they are not doctors, and the Constitution provides clearly for who has the permission, who has the authority to know whether somebody is healthy enough. In this case, the Constitution talks about permanent incapacitation. It did not talk about somebody being unwell. It says that if somebody physically or mentally has a permanent incapacitation that has been verified by a body of doctors, including the person's personal physician, then the person would not, should not perform duties. Let us make it very clear that the governor of Taraba State, pharmacist Dambaba Sonte, had an accident. He was in an aircraft that he was flying that crashed. He has been away for 10 months, and he did not come back the way that he went back. Nobody is saying that the governor is as fit as he was before the crash, but that he is in the state that if with the cooperation of the deputy governor whom he appointed personally 2 weeks before the crash, working with him, things can, the state can move on.
Well, the way it is now looks like perhaps you should be able to tell us some other issues that we may not have foreknowledge of. For some individuals to say, for the banks, on the surface, they can reject a check just when they doubt the authenticity of that signature, even if you signed it in their presence. Do you think that kind of logic could have been what the Speaker of the Taraba Assembly is hanging on to?
Yes, I do know that our system allows for you to verify whether any instrument that you have received is valid or not, whether the person who is transmitting the letter, is the person that has transmitted the letter. We have had a lot of press reports talking about ghost letters, ghost signatures, and so forth. But the majority leader, I've made inquiries from the Taraba House of Assembly, and I'm told that the process of transmission of letters to the Assembly was duly followed. In the Taraba State House of Assembly, according to their procedures and processes, the letters go from the special advisor to the governor on legislative affairs to the majority leader. The majority leader calls the clerk of the house, who collects the letter and takes it to the speaker. That process was followed. I do know also, I've been told that members of the State House of Assembly met with the governor. I don't think there is any doubt now as to the authenticity of the letter.
You know, before now, the House has been on one page, especially with the majority leader and some other members saying that the governor is fit to rule. Don't you think it was after that particular visit by members of the House, they decided to make a U-turn from what they have seen, that the governor is incapable of running the affairs of the state for now?
I don't think. I think that was the first point I did mention. I did mention that the members, with due respect to members of the State House of Assembly, who are honorable members, and my own member, I'm from Taraba State. My own member is also a signatory to the letter saying that the governor is unfit. But what I do know is that, with due respect, they cannot tell they cannot, from their interactions with the governor, who called them by names, who stood up to welcome them, who saw the governor of Adamawa State out when he visited, that this man is unfit. That is a medical function, and they have the powers to start the process of a medical evaluation. It is not for them to sit down and make that declaration because they don't have the expertise. The Constitution does not recognize their authority to arrive at that conclusion.
Now, you talked about, I mean, taking what you said that, you know, that the governor did not come back in the state in which, you know, he left. Thank God he came back, you know, a lot better, but he definitely is not as fit as he was when he was voted into office. You also acknowledged that when he was hoping, from your own assessment, you were thinking that if he gets the cooperation of the deputy governor, he should be able to carry out, you know, his functions as governor. From the way things are as well, one would also think that, you know, the governor might need to go for possibly medical checkups as often as possible. How do you see this politics playing out between himself and his deputy governor, who they now say is the acting governor in the state?
Well, I don't want to speculate about the politics of what is going to happen or not, because the attention of every peace-loving person in Taraba State is that God should help us to arrive at a point where things will work, things will function for the people of Taraba State. But the fact is that I am told that the governor needed to come back and be in this environment, the environment that he's used to, for him to fully arrive at the point of health that he needed to arrive at. The doctor physically and medically, they've satisfied that he is okay. He needed to be in a friendly environment, not in a hostile environment. When people get sick and they've been hospitalized and they are discharged not in perfect health. They are discharged to go back home into their environment so that they can fully, in a normal environment of seeing friendly people, of seeing people that are cooperating with you, they can reach back to the 100% that they were. Unfortunately, we have a situation in Taraba State where, because some people want to remain in power, they are providing a hostile environment. And it's unfortunate because the deputy governor was appointed 2 weeks or so by the governor before he had the crash. Number two, I have been with the deputy governor once when he was acting governor. He was the one that told me that the governor was recovering, that the governor was able to write very well. That was as early as April or so. It was the deputy governor who told me when I visited him in his office that the governor was recovering, the governor could write, everything was fine with the governor. And so for the deputy governor to turn around and tell the public that this man that he said was recovering is not fit, it beats my imagination. I don't know what he is up to, but the law is very clear. And I do know that the governor is not a vindictive person. So I believe that by next week things are going to settle down, and the deputy governor will take his place. And I believe that he will have learned his lesson and behave like President Goodluck Jonathan did. Even when the late President Yaradua was brought late in the night, late in the night in an ambulance, he could not walk, nobody saw him, he did not appear on TV. President Goodluck Jonathan did not go out to say that he was in charge and that this man should go back to the hospital for treatment. That is loyalty. If President Goodluck Jonathan could do like that when it was obvious that the state of President Yaradua was bad, I mean, there's no reason why this man who did not campaign, who was handpicked by the governor, will behave the way he's behaving.
Now, you know, a host of people are saying that, I mean, you're bringing in the question of loyalty here, but, you know, some people are saying that, what about the role of patriotism on the part of the handlers of the governor? You talked about how if somebody is discharged from hospital, the person is brought back home to a friendly environment. It didn't say you should bring the person back to work. I mean, some people have said the governor looks like he could do with a lot more medical checks and medical help. He is yet to fully recover to that full state of health. People are saying maybe perhaps he should just resign and, you know, let somebody who is physically fit, you know, take over the mantle of leadership.
Well, I don't know what you mean, what you do mean, but the fact is that the governor has come back. Question of resigning does not arise at the moment, because as you saw yourself, as your reporters in Jalingo would have told you, the governor has been meeting with different groups of people that are going to him to wish him well. He is still the governor. He can decide when, if he discovers that the routine is too much for him to go. But he has come. What is needed of the deputy governor is to cooperate the way President Goodluck Jonathan cooperated. It's not for the deputy governor to get some people to say that he is still the governor, the acting governor, the banks should recognize only what he has done. By the way, I hope you do know too that the Commissioner of Justice and the Attorney General of Taraba State was the person that was sworn in as the secretary to the government of Taraba State.
What does that mean?
That is the Commissioner of Justice, and Attorney General that was working with the acting governor is the person that was sworn in as the secretary to the government.
Yeah,
so what's the implication? There has been an effective change. There has been an effective.
I think
yes, I'm hearing you.
Mr. Shawulu, we wanted you to tell us more of the implication of that swap, so to speak, since after that appointment.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say effectively is that the governor has taken office. It is very clear that the governor has taken office. He is living in government house. The people of the state, the chief of staff has taken his office. The new chief of staff has taken office. Things are moving on in the state. What we are praying and trusting God that the deputy governor will do is to fall into line so that things will move. I mean, even if it doesn't fall into line, things are going to move in the state anyway, because the deputy governor was the first person that told us that the governor is getting well, the governor is coming back. Why has he suddenly changed to say that the governor cannot operate?
Why are you making...
Sorry, Mark, have you seen the governor since his return? Since you're from the state, and looks to me that from your comments, you have access to government house. Have you seen the governor?
Yes, I was among those that received the governor at the Abuja airport. I have not been to Jalingo to see him because I am involved with the preparations for the party's convention coming up tomorrow. But as soon as the convention is over, I'm also going to go to Jalingo again to greet him and thank God and rejoice with the people of Taraba State that God saved this man from an air crash and has brought him back to the state, and he needs to be in the state. If it turns out as he continues his duties that he cannot operate, everybody will know what is there to do. But that situation has not arisen, because so far there's no doubt that the by the way, let me make this point clear to those who don't know that Pharmacist Dan Babasunte had delegated a lot of functions to the deputy governor even before the crash. I want to inform you that he was planning to go on his leave and has ceded and had almost handed over the state to the deputy governor before the crash. Dan Baba is not power hungry. That is the point I want to do. He was already here, and the deputy governor of Taraba State is the only governor that has a lodge in Abuja that is given
no
functions
doubt,
and
no
responsibilities
doubt, people,
to perform.
Just allow me to come in here, Mr. Shawulu. People already saying that, well, he's not power hungry, but he has people that have taken the affairs, taken governance in Taraba State. They say the First Lady, in concert with some other people, are the ones running the affairs of Taraba State. I'm sure you must have seen that.
No, I'm very surprised about that. I'm very disappointed about people who make that statement. I spoke to the new chief of staff. I asked him, because I do know him, I asked him what happened, because I said I've not been to Jalingo. And he did inform me that when the proposals was taken to the governor about appointing a chief of staff, some names were given to him. The governor personally ticked the person's name. The governor is, by the way, let me also mention that in February this year, I was with the governor in Germany. At least I had some levels of discussion with him. He was in pains. I met him in the hospital bed. We discussed with him. And for people to come and say, after several months, that the man has degenerated to the extent that he cannot speak, he cannot do this, is not true. That is his wife. It's very uncharitable on the woman. And for family friends of Dan Baba, for people to say that they should not be around Dan Baba, because if they are around him, they are the ones that are acting, making him to work. Nobody has stopped the deputy governor from going to brief the governor. Nobody has stopped him.
What
In
about
fact,
the
one highly placed government federal government appointee asked me at the airport in Abuja. He said, "Where is the deputy governor?" I said, "I don't know. I thought that he was going to be here. Maybe he will be in Jalingo."
Or did he
when
at
the,
any
when the
time
governor was received? Nobody is stopping him.
Did he at any time go to see the governor while he was in Germany?
He did go to Germany, I'm aware, and he went to the US. It's after he came back from the US that he said that the governor was getting better, that the governor was all right. He was expecting the governor to come back. And he told me personally that the governor could write now as early as April. So I'm surprised that he is among those that are saying the governor cannot write now. So was he lying to me then?
Does it mean that he was not prevented from seeing the governor?
How can you prevent a deputy
governor when he
from
came back
seeing the governor?
to Abuja?
There's a video clip of the deputy governor, then acting governor, meeting with the governor at the hospital in New York when he was in rehabilitation home.
What about when he came back in Abuja? Was the deputy governor prevented from seeing him?
He did not show up in Abuja.
Now, why is the deputy governor being made to, look like he's being disloyal? Because we also remember very clearly, you've talked about the Yaradua example also very, extensively. We remember then that the vice president, then vice president, was already acting president when late President Yar'Adua was returned to Nigeria. We remember that did not prevent, yes, on the day he came back, I think the following day there was supposed to be a Federal Executive Council meeting. That meeting for some reason did not hold, but subsequently we found out that these meetings were holding. So the acting president continued to act until such a time as when the president, could finally come and take over. Why is the deputy governor of Taraba State being made to look like he's been disloyal, considering the state of health? I mean, even you have said he's yet to return to the state he was when he was voted into office as the governor of Taraba State.
The governor of Taraba State came back until everybody saw when he struggled to come down from the aircraft. He shook hands with people, he met with prominent people, and he flew back. Hundreds of thousands of people lined up to receive him in Jalingo. He has met with pastors. People have been going to see him openly. He's been on TV. That is unlike the situation of our dear President Yar'Adua. Yar'Adua was not seen in public, but even at that time, the President Goodluck did not make any derogatory remark. President Goodluck did not hold meetings. The National Assembly did not come out to make any derogatory remark about him. Nobody sponsored the press to say the man was brain dead. Nobody contested any authority with President Yar'Adua. That is loyalty. This is not what is happening. You just read a statement by yourself that the deputy governor issued a statement that no instrument by the governor should be recognized except the one that is issued by him.
That wasn't the statements we read. No, the statements we read said recognized by him and the governor. I think that was a statement that's on the front page of the Vanguard. I think it's very important that we get that particular rider clear. It has to be signed by himself and the governor. That's what was sent to them.
The governor's
question is,
don't have access to government instruments.
I didn't get you there.
And the governor, I don't know the process of Taraba State, but I know in most states of the Federation, governors don't sign instruments personally.
Okay. Now, just quickly as well, while the deputy governor, the acting governor continues, would there have been an issue, for instance, assuming the governor had come back? Nobody can say the governor was not seen in public, but assuming he was said to still be resting and recuperating, would there have been any issue with that? I mean, until such a time when, possibly his voice would have been much stronger to address the people of Taraba State. Would there have been a problem with that?
I don't understand the question you are raising. I didn't hear that question well, but if I hazard what you are trying to ask, the governor is back. That is what is important. And the governor can do the things that they said he could not do. So what is important, and I did point out that even when the governor, even before he traveled, the governor delegated a lot of functions to the deputy governor. So the question of saying that the governor doesn't do physical, no governor in the country goes to do physical work, carrying blocks and doing things. The governor sit down to receive reports, discuss them, and then a decision is arrived at. And the governor, in this case, Governor Damba Basunte, is able to do that.
All right, then, Rima Shaolu, a public affairs analyst, thank you very much indeed for speaking with us today on Sunrise Daily. All right, then we're back after this.
Thank you.
Please join us again. right, then welcome back. Let's run through some of your comments, and we'll start with this one from Musa. Musa writes in from Lagos. Actually, he says, "What is your guest implying? I mean, there is no doubt that Dambaba is not well and cannot pilot the affairs of millions of people. Besides, the governor didn't write to make deputy acting governor. The House did because of the prevailing circumstances then. They are therefore right in rejecting the transmitted letter. Please leave the rhetoric." He goes on and on. All right, Dambaba. Musa from Lagos, actually.
Well, Everest Naji sends this, or so we say Chooks sends this one. He says, Santai is a natural, slow body movement person. People should not judge his health by his physical appearance. He looks not fully strong, no doubt, but is recovered enough to take charge with his assistant with him. That's Chooks.
Now to our tweets, the current political crisis has again demonstrated the desperation of our politicians to cling to power by all means. That's from Olusegun.
Osani says the situation in Taraba is a clear reflection of the excessive taste for leadership.
And Dawood says if the people are asking him to address them, it's for his own good. A deputy governor has managed to rule the state well in the past 10 months.
Kanife, is the law made for man or man for the law? If he's not well and the law says he should govern, then the law must be reviewed.
Well, Femi says, if he is fit, he should go to the assembly and show them that he is. We'll never seem to learn from history. Okay then, well that's a wrap today. Well, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain.
I really couldn't believe it was Friday. Well, thank you for staying with us all week. I'm Maokwe Ogun.
Well, I do believe. Many thanks.
Thank God it's Friday, right?